Hey, what is going on guys? Joe here from JPRC. Welcome back for another video on the JPRC channel here. Now, I know in the last few weeks there has been a lack of videos and I have been busy with other priorities in life. But anyway, I'm super excited today because I just finished the latest BJ Baldwin Monster Energy Trophy Truck based on a GS2 chassis. I'm sure that you have seen the 1-to-1 scale trophy truck in the Recoil 4 video, and I think that was one of the best videos today from BJ. That's when I got inspired to build a replica of his truck. So in today's video, I will show you exactly how everything was put together with the masking, with the painting and other components that I chose to put into this truck. And ultimately, I will try to find a venue and location nearby my place to do a parody of the Recoil 4 video. So as you can see, the body that I chose is the Proline Racing Tundra body for the Traction Slash. Now, since this is a true scale line of the Lexan body, it is actually a little bit taller and wider than a standard size short course body, which is what the GS2 chassis is designed for. One of the biggest challenges I had was trying to fit this body on the GS2 chassis. For example, the A-pillar here on the body doesn't really line up with the A-pillar on the cage, so that's when I had to leave this extra piece of Lexan slightly tinted in purple to fill up the gap. And also, as you can see in the Recoil 4 body, that is a race truck body, so it has more flair, whereas the true scale body is more rounded to be just like the production car you can see. And overall, it is not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it. I think the pink scheme really helped mask up some of the imperfection on the fitting here. Now, if Proline decides to release a new standard size Tundra body, I will definitely pick one up and do it again. And speaking of the pink scheme here, it is definitely one of the most time consuming part of this build. The standard black, white, and silver section here were very easy to mask, and for the line along the fender, into the side, and into the rear fender, I simply traced it on the bench, and then I was able to cut out the masking from each of the masking paper on the bench and then tape it back onto the body. It was an extremely straightforward process. And for these black and white stripes on a quarter panel here, I simply used these 3mm and 5mm masking tape over each other, and you can just peel one at a time between different color and coating. And then of course the most challenging part was masking this overlapping camo pattern from both sides to the front. If you've been paying close attention to the detail shots in the video, you can see that truck has two different shades of gray overlapping with a hint of purple at times in the Recoil 4 video. So to mimic the similar patterns, I had to scale down the patterns down by looking at pictures from my phone and then hand drawing all of those patterns in reverse on the masking papers that I put on the cutting board. I used two different kinds of masking color to simulate the patterns, and the worst part was that I wasted so much time on forgetting to reverse the image the first time I was going at it. And between taking breaks from the masking, I was also shopping for different Lexan spray paints, but I could not find none of the exact colors from Tamiya. So I ended up ordering all of the shades of gray, gunmetal, silver, and purple from Tower Hobbies. I know that if I don't use them all in this build, I could use them elsewhere in different projects so they're not wasted. And then the worst part was that none of them were exact color match. So I end up sorting out to just blending some of the gunmetal paint with the smoke paint to get it to close enough. And I also spray a very light coat of the purple green translucent color before applying the camo color. And that's when you're looking at different angle. Depending on the camera angle or light angle, some of the camo will turn green and purple, just like it in the Recoil 4 video. And lastly, to complete the paint job with finer details, I also painted up the 97 on top of the truck, and also I painted these oval tail lights in the back to match BJ's scale trophy truck. I only did it because I could not find any matching U4RC light on the market to fit this body, and painting these lights on it was easy enough to do, so I just painted on instead. And speaking of lighting, I had the front LED bar hidden inside the body right on the top right there, and it's actually built onto the chassis. And the reason why it's hidden inside the body is mainly because of the imperfect body fitment from the TrueScale Tundra body. This worked out nicely because it offers protection for the LED light bar in case of a rollover, unlike that happened in my Yeti score when it was built onto the Lexan body. In a rollover, it would just rip right out. Another part I borrowed from the Axial Yeti score is the interior Lexan piece. I just had to trim the edges to fit it into this cage. Another borrowed part is the radiator in the back. It is actually off of a Baja Rave. It looks great and fits perfectly nicely in the back. I also hooked up a front light bar on-off switch right underneath it. And lastly, you cannot call it a replica without a complete set of sponsored decals for this truck. And starting with the front, you can see the front bumper cover all the way to the back. Each logo is perfectly sized and measured to this body only. And my favorite part of these decals are that I even had the decals in the front cage bumper for the Hoonigan right there painted. And by the way, the GS2 chassis came with a painted black cage, and without having to sand down the black paint, I was able to simply paint the cage with the Tamiya anodized purple to replicate the anodized purple cage on the full scale truck. So in addition to the paint job on the body, you can also see that I got these wheels also matched in the same color scheme. Now these are generic 1.9 beadlock wheels you can find on eBay for a relatively good price. I simply had to sand down the surface and then prime them with automotive primer, and then I painted Tamiya silver as the base color, and also on the outer coat is the translucent purple also from Tamiya. Now wrapping around these wheels are the TFL 1.9 Baja tires. I picked them up from RC Mart, and these are the only ones I can find from all of the catalog from Proline, from RC 4-wheel drive, and these TFL are the only one I could find to match those 39 inches Toyo on BJ's full scale truck. Now these rubbers are very soft and sticky, and I'm hoping them to hook up well on the dirt. And to get the perfect offset on all four tires so they tuck into the fender, I'm using the Vanquish Product 225 SOW hub all around. Now, due to the weight of this truck, I am running a single stage foam from Crawler Innovations to help with the cornering stability, and to maximize the performance on these forms, I vented 3 holes on each tire to limit the tire rebounds when getting some serious air time. And when you talk about getting some serious air time, you cannot get your truck to land nicely without some awesome shocks from Proline Racing. Now, just like Dresting from CyconXC, I'm running these Proline power strokes all around in this setup. In the front, I'm running the 110mm rear shocks in the front, and in the back, I'm running these 127mm Yeti rear shocks in the back. Now, if you want to talk about shock tuning, we could spend a whole day talking about it, and it's not for this video. But just like CyconXC has said it before, it is all about trial and error, and I'm currently running 50 weight in the front and 40 in the rear. And the initial 2 feet drop test seems to be dialed in for the terrain that I'm going to be running it on. Now this truck with a 3S 5000 mAh Gen 6 battery in the back, it weighs around 10.5 pounds with a 40-60 front and rear weight bias. And since this is a 2-wheel drive mid-motor trophy truck, the 40-60 weight bias is great for rear traction, and the heavier back helps to lift the nose up when you're jumping it, unlike the nose-heavy Rock Racer based Axial Yeti that it tends to nose dive with its roughly 60-40 front and rear weight bias. And when it comes to the motor, as I have mentioned in the last video, I'm running a Castle Creation Mamba Monster X 1/8 scale ESC hooked up to a 1512 censored motor. Now this combo has brutal amount of power, and it'll be a great test for finding out how much these metal drive shafts will hold up. Now one thing I like about this chassis is that the motor is perfectly situated in the middle of the chassis for optimal lateral weight balance, and it is also sitting as low as possible to the ground so that you get the lowest possible center of gravity. Now all this will translate into great handling around the corners and tail sliding happiness for awesome videos, as you will see in the upcoming action videos we'll be making. And by now you would probably notice that this trailing arm here has these JPRC lettering on it. Now that's right, this is a custom made trailing arm just for the GS2 chassis from JEC Racing. Initially I got it just to match the chrome trailing arm on the full scale trophy truck from BJ because the GS2 has the black anodized trailing arm that came with it. But one thing I couldn't help to notice is how beefy these JEC TAs are. Furthermore, it has this feature that the whole rod end is tucked into the housing for the trailing arm, providing additional protection and support. And finally, the GS2 chassis has a slightly longer trailing arms than the Axial Yeti or the Losi Baja Rave. This longer trailing arm setup actually mirrors the full-scale trucks in terms of look and performance. Anyway, if you're in the market for a new set of trailing arm for your Axial Yeti or Baja Rave, you have to check out JEC Racing. He is a small shop, but his product tops many of the big names out there in terms of quality and pricing. Alright guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching again. I know many of you has asked about the general availability of this truck. Right now, the GS2 chassis is only being sold to his domestic market for about $400, which is a crazy low price tag for what it is. However, I don't know if this will ever be available in the US market. The biggest problem is that there is a significant cost in shipping to overseas and that he has limited production capacity budget. If there is any additional update, I will keep you posted on my social media pages. Like and subscribe. I will see you in the next.